Okay, that's let's say, for example, there's the possibility of being able to set up some type of structure, culture, society, uh, what have you, whether at sea or on land. For instance, Galt's Gulch over in Chile. A question always arises: cost. One, there's the cost of any structure or land and uh, uh, infrastructure involved. There's also the cost from the individual person. These are not insignificant. These are almost key as in to the issues at hand. There are many people that don't have the resources necessary to get into this. Many of these people today we would be calling house husbands. Now, and as I started thinking about the total cost of everything um, and the amount of value that would have to be put into this, I began to think, how could this be generated? How could this work to our individual advantages? How can this help? How can this help a victim of emotional terrorism? And I looked at the screen and I saw this very site. I'm not talking any of my videos, but I am talking this site. This is perhaps our greatest tool to that is capable of being exploited. As a community, we can help generate not only for ourselves but for others, and the more people that cooperate, the more value that is generated. We can use the policies for and ads as a means of generating income and support each other in this endeavor. As far as assisting anybody or to attempt to rescue somebody from a situation as a collective of individuals, virtual currency would need to be employed. And since this seems to use a fairly common system for the transfer of value, generally in the form of purchases and sometimes for bill payment, we can use this. We can use that to go directly to a currency exchange and use the networks of cryptocurrency to our advantage. On a more individual level, this once again allows you, or it offers another opportunity to go and generate additional wealth, as well as keeping it away from everything else. You may need to you may need to build a stockpile and do it in as limited chunks and segments as possible. Now, when doing all this, obviously Bitcoin comes to mind. But as I said before, Bitcoin does have its inherent drawbacks. Mainly, the main drawback for me is the base cost of transferring a Bitcoin increases along with the value of Bitcoin itself. Now, that being said, we also have some other concerns. Now, what type of organization would be necessary to facilitate such an operation? Well, at one time, all it would have taken would have been a handshake. Sadly, those times are no longer common. I say common because in certain areas and regions and towns, such agreements are still commonplace, but that's rare. This would also be a way of having this as a passive measure for wealth generation, since it would essentially remain on the internet. It could end up being a source of well, in a sense, royalties. Now, why would this be important? Well, many of whom I have been exposed to within the MGTOW ranks tend to be fairly intelligent. This typically puts one into one of about 3 separate categories. We don't really need to get into that. However, typically the more intelligent somebody is, the more, well, there are many levels of intelligence, but the more trusting they tend to be until they've been burned, and burned bad. In which case, trust is kind of hard to come by pretty much from that point on. Now, so we have to try and make this as passive as possible so that there are essentially no hands in the cookie jar. All that is needed is the community at large to make a conscious effort to essentially view as many commercials as possible. And in the process, well, from that point on, you can do whatever you want. I would hope we could come together as a community, but if not, it's this is just like a brainstorming thing. Like how could any of this work? If you were to do like a seastead or a Earthship type of venture, then you would need a way to fund it, and that is a lot of money to ask people to take out of their bank, out of savings that they don't have. It limits the number the number of people that are able to go and squirrel away money for the future. It limits it to a very few. However, if there's a passive way of generating this wealth that is necessary to embark on such ventures, if there's a way to passively acquire this, then that should take out a fairly a fair number of the obstacles in question. I don't know. Let me know what you think. This is, like I said, this is honestly just more like a brainstorm, a thought. If someone can come up with a better idea, please. I don't think we should be closed to any concepts, opinions, or ideas when it comes to essentially, at this rate, what it's looking like it might end up being is the future of the human race. Yes, you could say that's being a little melodramatic. However, once again, I don't see it that way. You probably see it differently. Let me know what you think.